Hey, what's up with you, man?
What up, bro? It's been a long time. How have you been?
I've been great, man. How you been?
I've been good. I can't complain.
I forgive you for wearing that hat, man. You know, of course, Lena, she'll love you, but I gotta go with the
I know.
Vikings, man.
I know. Look. My barber is out of commission right now. So every interview I do, I have to wear a hat.
I ain't
Yeah.
mad at you, but you know that
Yeah.
Saints that caused a lot of arguments in this house. But it's still a dope hat. You know what I'm saying? It's a dope hat.
As long as somebody in the household has my back, I'm good.
What's up with you, man?
I've been pretty good. So, Monday is the anniversary of Prince's death. It's been 4 years.
Yeah.
And so I know that your mom, her house was up the street from Prince's house, and Prince rolled up on you and was like, I know who you are. You're Tony's son. So I want
Yeah.
to hear about that story.
Well, my mother, like, literally, not only did they live, like, just really close, but the way the streets are on the north side of Minneapolis is they're alphabetical. So it's A, B, C, D, E, all the way just straight down. So his mother lived on Queen, and my grandmother lived on Russell. So he was always at my grandmother's house with my uncle. And my mother used to sing. She never went major or anything like that. She sang with like Little Richard and things like that. But she said one of her first shows he came to because they knew each other so well.
Yeah.
And when I saw him parked outside of the club, I just went up to the joint like, hey, and I'm stuttering. And I'm trying to explain who I am. And remember, I'd been out already, but there's a certain amount of humbleness you have to have around people that put work in. And I think that's one thing that this new generation has missed out on is understanding that no matter how successful you are, even if you were more successful than the ones before you are the ones that paved the way. So I walked up to his car. He rolled the window down. He had his driver. And I'm trying to explain who I am. And he stopped me real quick and was like, I know exactly who you are. You're Tony's son. So I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, I would love to work with you. And he's like, as long as it's without them. And I'm like, who? And he goes, the labels. And rolls the window up and just dips, right? So I'm like, oh, dude ain't rocking with me.
Yeah.
But then, like, literally a week later, we got invited to Paisley Park for a jam session. So we had been up to Paisley like 2 or 3 times. And it's funny because when I told that story to Jamie Foxx, he had a similar story about going out to Paisley and Prince pulling him to the side and chastising him about the fight that he had on any given Sunday with LL.
Yeah.
But it was super crazy. But it's funny because there's always 6 degrees of separation. The way we even got signed was our demo was sitting on the tour bus, and a DJ named Brother Jules, who happened to be the new Power Generation DJ, so it was Prince's DJ, seen the CD and told Kay, because Kay was like, yo, who is the hottest group out here? And he was like, if it's anybody, it's that tape right there. So Kay picked it up and put it in his pocket. Literally a week later, he called with flights for us to come to the East Coast. So Prince, with 6 degrees of separation, had something to do with us getting put on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So speaking of, how did you, Tweet and Tilo meet?
Well, Tilo and Tweet are biological brothers, same mother. But I used to go see a guy, and he was a big gospel guy, and he had different groups around the city. He was like one of the first major gospel acts out of the Twin Cities, James Greer. He had a group called James Greer Company. And I would go to him with my little groups. I would have local groups and get advice on like arrangement and harmonies, because that was like my weak link for me. And he would tell me different things. And one day he had his godson there. And I remember because he had an earring that said Tilo on it. And I heard him just humming along singing and stuff. And God put something on me to call maybe a year later and be like, whatever happened to that guy? And I was still in a group. We were singing, and he was like, it's funny you asked. He just moved back in town and was asking about you. So I said, well, have him come by my show. I got a show with my group. And he came and he brought his little brother. And I was in a 3-person group. And what ended up happening is I took everybody back to the studio that I worked out of. And we instantly, like, literally released one of my group members. And Tweet and Tilo came into the group with me
Oh,
and my
wow.
other member. So there were 4 originally. I don't know if you saw the unsung, but the original 4th member, who's still my best friend to this day, I'm the
Yup.
godfather to his kids. He was the original 4th member. So we just ended up switching up and eventually just going down to a trio. But yeah, that's how it happened.
Oh, okay. So how was it recording the classic hits for Next? You guys worked with Clive Davis and everything.
It was scary because I'm the primary writer of the group. You know, Tweet writes as well, but they would allow me to really write a lot. And at
Yeah.
first, it was a struggle because I was so used to musicianship. I think that's the right word. With production, and KG from Naughty by Nature, he would
Yep.
start with like break beats. So there would be no keys or chords or anything. It would be a break beat just looped. And I would have to write to that. And it made me a better writer, actually. But we went from being around Lance and Prop T from Low Key, who were the first to discover us,
Yeah.
to all of a sudden we're on the East Coast, and it was a rap attitude. So you know me, I'm in the bed super early. Back then, we're
Exactly.
in the studio from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and it's a rap atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? Luckily, you know, now Tretch and Kay and Vin, you know, we're all, you know, family. But back
Right.
then, coming from Minneapolis to the East Coast, it's a different kind of street. And
Because
it was a
they're
growing
from
experience.
Jersey, and I'm from Jersey too.
So you understand, we
Yeah.
literally stayed at the Robert Tree Hotel in downtown Newark back at the height
Oh,
of
downtown.
carjacking. And
Oh, yeah. Over by the
right,
train station. Okay, yeah.
right. And then we literally recorded. We recorded in the hood in East Orange in a studio called Perfect Pair. It was a nice studio, but it was literally in the hood. So
Yeah.
people gave us a pass because they knew we was new family. But yeah, it was something.
Oh, wow. So you went from being in a group from Next, and then you went on to being solo. But before you went solo, you had one of the best duets in the 90s with Deborah Cox. So how did that whole duet come into fruition?
Well, we were label mates, and she's maybe a little bit older than me, not telling her age or my age or anything, but I knew we were label mates. I was a fan, but I had no plans of doing anything outside of the group. Um, but when I did the Best Man record, which I think was before Deborah Cox, was it? No, actually, it was after Deborah Cox. When I did Deborah Cox, it let me know that I had enough skill to do other things outside of the group, because originally I grew up with low self-esteem. I never even thought about solo, nothing. It was never about that. I love the group atmosphere. I love the camaraderie. But all of a sudden, they're like, we want you to do this record. And I had rarely did records that I didn't write. Like a majority of the things that I've always done, I've written or co-written. And this was a record that was already done. And what people don't realize, it was written by Montel Jordan and produced by Shep Crawford. So Montel doesn't get enough credit as a songwriter. But they had me come in the studio, and I happened to be on tour. And I would have to leave and go to we started in Detroit. So I recorded
Yeah.
in Detroit, but no one was with me to instruct me. So I just went in there and just sang it flat out, like, here you go. I ended up coming back to LA.
You
And
sung your heart out.
I went, but I was still young, so I wasn't seasoned enough to
Mhm.
understand certain things. So I got to LA, went back in with them and finished it, and everything was a whirlwind. A lot of the things that I've done just happened really fast. Next thing you know, we're shooting a video. Little X shot the video. He goes by X now, but it ended up just becoming really, really big. The sad part is we've only performed the record once, and it was at the Lady of Soul Awards, which they don't even have anymore. But that was the only time we've ever sang the record together.
Wow. So after you filmed that, then you went solo. So tell us the recording process for this album right here.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. People think that I went solo. I never wanted to do a solo project. What happened was
Yeah.
we had just finished the second album, and we had a little issue with the record, whatever, for Ideal, because
Mhm.
that was really our record. I submitted it to the guys, and they refused it because I had already did like 11 or 12 records on the new project. So
Yeah.
I gave it to Ideal, and they actually went for ads the week before we did. So all of a sudden, this record is climbing the charts, and the label's calling me like, why did you give this record away? And I'm like, well, the guys didn't want it. So that's how it first started. But then Clive Davis ended up being ousted out of Arista, and he started J Records. but we were the only group at the time that had a project out, and we were given a choice. What we were told was, if we could stay at the label with L.A. Reid or go with Clive, and if we went with Clive, both labels would promote and market the album. Well, we found out that wasn't true when we decided to stay loyal to Clive Davis. That was kind of the demise, and that's why people after Wifey, they didn't really get to hear much because Beauty Queen wasn't promoted like that because the label was telling radio to play Pop Your Collar by Usher instead of Beauty Queen. So we were caught in the middle of label wars that had nothing to do with us. So I'm going back to Clive because all I do is create. You know, I live in the studio.
Exactly.
So I'm going to Clive like, fine, well, let's start on this new album. I already had records laid out. And he was like, it's too soon. You'd be literally fighting your own album. He said, but what I will do is I'll give you basically $500,000 and put you up in LA and we can work on your album. And I really wasn't sure, but it coincided with me doing Good Love for the, I get them mixed up because I know Best Man was for, I think that was for the Brother soundtrack.
No, the Best Man was for the
Best Man soundtrack.
Best Man soundtrack.
Okay,
yeah.
well, Good Love was for the Brother soundtrack.
Yeah.
So I was already doing that. And they were giving me like a boatload of money, but the label didn't want to clear it. So I'm begging Clive, like, look, I did this Deborah Cox for you. Please let me go get this bag. He finally let me do it, and I happened to just be in LA already. And this is what's crazy. I was supposed to leave for LA. No, I was supposed to go to New York to sign my deal the day that 9/11 happened. I was at the gym that morning, and I was supposed to fly out that evening, and I literally walked past the TV and the show on the Twin Towers going down. I'm like, what's going on? So maybe 2-3 weeks later, I ended up going to LA and just doing the album. And I did it in LA because my group members lived out there, and I wanted them to see, like, I'm not doing this because I just want to go solo.
Right.
And we ended up doing Looking for Love. No, some record is on the Dr. Dolittle 2 soundtrack featuring Lil Zane. We did a record while I was working on my album. So I wanted them to be privy to be able to experience this with me. And so I did it in LA. But it really wasn't as impactful as I had hoped because I was still on a new label. J Records didn't even have a staff yet by the time I worked on my album. I think they kind of did it to appease me because they knew that I was kind of mad that we were kind of stuck, which I've always appreciated Clive for. What other people don't know is, and I don't really say this that often, I didn't have KG produce on that album, and me and KG had created a sound that every label was asking for. We had did it on Jaheim. We had did it on Ideal. Other people tried to do our sound. They tried to duplicate it.
Yeah.
I purposely didn't go to K because I didn't want people to hear my album and say, wait, this sounds like Next. Why do we need Next? I never wanted the world to think that me alone could do it without my brothers because they had taken me so far. And what no one knows is K didn't do a record, but K was in LA and picked me up and went for a ride. And I handed him a check for $100,000 and said, thank you for putting me on. Didn't do a record, but it's always about taking care of your people.
Yeah.
But I'm still proud of the album. People will come to me and say, you know, I love that album. People slept on this album. It's a classic. But it didn't get the promotion that I wanted. I do love Good Man. I love Got Me a Model. There are quite a few records on there like No. But for me, I'll say this lastly, not to keep, carrying on, but it was like college for me. I had no idea what I was doing. I literally learned how to be an artist working on the album. I learned how to record myself. I learned how to arrange. We had choirs coming in, orchestras. We really were like scientists in there, like, you know what? Let's try this. I was able to work with people like Tim and Bob and the Underdogs before people even knew who the Underdogs were like that. So I was able to do a lot of things and experience a lot of things on that project.
Okay. So you went from being a group member to a solo artist. And what I want everyone to understand is this man pen game is sick. So I'm going to pull out a couple of records that you wrote. And what I want you to explain to the viewers the writing process and the producing process. So the first album is this.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Jamie Foxx, that's my guy. I did Forecast on that album. And what people don't realize is I would always try to find little ways to let people know I did a record. And what I did was, if you notice, the weatherman says Minneapolis. So that was like an ode to my city. But I actually recorded that record in Phoenix. And I did it for him because the whole time I was working on my album in L.A., he would come to the studio and hang out with me. I was at Babyface's studio, so we'd be together almost every day. And he would tell me stories.
Yeah.
And I knew he was a dope artist, but I always felt like when I would hear Jamie, I would hear him mimicking someone else. But I knew how dope he was himself. So I created a record for him that I thought was slick, that fit his personality, because he was so good to me. Like, literally, he took me to Will Smith's house for the Super Bowl and really showed me, you know, Hollywood a little bit. And he was really humble, and it surprised me. And so I did the record, but then politics got involved, and people came in the middle. And I was holding on to the record for about 6 months. So I finally left him a message. I said, big bro, you still my guy. If you don't want to do this record, we good. Like, I'm not going to take it personal. He ends up calling me back. He's like, I haven't returned your call because I've been on location. I can't remember what country they were shooting Miami Vice in, because they shot part of it in Miami, but they were in another country. And he was like, listen, we're coming back in 2 days. I'll stop in Minnesota and pick you up if you want. And I was like, no, I'll tell you what, I have to go to this graduation. Just give me a plane ticket. Boom. So I get to Miami, and we end up using, we were going to use Timberland's tour bus, but we ended up going to the studio on an off day from him shooting. But what was crazy was we were stranded in the hotel for days because there was like a hurricane or whatever out there. I think that's what they have in Miami. And we just hung out, me, him, and Tank, telling stories and talking and really connected. And we went and did the record, and it should have been a single, but again, there's always politics involved behind the scenes. So it's a record I really, really love. And I watched him years later on the Graham Norton show or some show overseas, and this older white man starts singing the lyrics to the song. And one other tidbit that people don't know, and they always try to pit us R&B groups against one another, is back in the day, now this is going to age me, we used to get beat CDs, right?
Right.
So it wasn't on a flash drive, it'd be a CD, and Duran's manager had given me a CD of tracks. So I called Duran one day and was like, look, I need the files to this track you sent me. And he goes, why? And I said, because we have a record on Jamie Foxx.
Oh.
So they were asking me questions, and I'm hood, so they're like, so do you want your name to go first? Do you want publishing from Duran? I'm like, nah. You know what I mean? Like, you did this. This is what it is. Get your bag. I did this. This is how it is. And from then on, there's been a certain level of respect with certain peers in the game because of how I operate. So Duran actually produced that. He's a musical genius.
Okay. So we have 3 more albums. So the one that I'm about to pull up, because you said Jenny, it should have been a single. So the next album, both were singles. So
this must be Jaheim.
Yeah, and you put him on a pedestal. You put him on the map. Yeah.
I actually did 3 records on there. The third one I love. I just didn't like that they made it a duet. I did Remarkable, which is one of my favorites. I dated the record because I say, what I say? Iceberg fit and wallabies slid by you real casually. Asked me, would you like a drink? Instead, you ordered one for me. So yeah, so Ja actually started when we started. We did the showcase together, but Arista didn't sign him, so Kay took him to Warner. He was always just a guy that loved to sing. That's all he would do all day. We actually slept on the floor on air mattresses in one room, and then he was in another room on the floor. And the way he would learn records is he would record a record on a tape over and over again on both sides and put it in this tape deck that would flip the tape on its own and play the record over and over. So you would hear the record like hundreds of times, and you just be like, come on, Ja. But he was perfecting the record. So then he did the record. But what's crazy is Anything was actually a slow record. Originally. We double timed it, and I wrote the bridge years later while I was in LA over the phone. They were in the studio, and that's how we did it. So that was a lot of fun. And I had never heard Ja compliment me, never heard him perform the records live and mention me at all. And one day, a decade later, he was on Instagram or Twitter and said something so complimentary of me that I literally had tears in my eyes. I had never heard him say anything about, you know, the work I put in for him. And politics got involved again with management, where I didn't get to work with him on subsequent albums. And I think that I could have gave him more heat.
Yeah. So, talk about.
Oh, okay. That goes back. We actually use a speaking spell if you listen. If you listen to it, the old Texas Instruments for Kids were U-S-H-E-R. And I was actually dating a girl who lived in Atlanta at the time. So I ended up having to call her from LA to get ideas about clubs and streets. So I'm naming stuff that I have no idea about the song, but it's called You Are the One. And what's dope is I got to work with Soul Shock and Carlin, who happened to do Heartbreak Hotel, or I think that's what it's called, for Whitney, with everybody featured. They did a lot of Monica records, and they were from they weren't from Sweden, but they were from another country. Two guys, and it was so much fun because I got to learn about technology of music. Because I never knew that. I just knew you go to the studio, boom. It was before all the Pro Tools that was crazy and all these different apps and plugins. So they were teaching me all this state-of-the-art stuff in the studio, and it was probably the best I've sounded on a microphone. You don't hear my vocals because, you know, he redid it, but their studio setup had me sound, man, I felt like I could do anything.
So the next album, a lot of people can't say this, but you can. So a lot of people have not worked with Queen B, but you have. So,
Are you talking about the soundtrack joint?
Nope, I'm talking about
Oh, you talking about
If You Leave. This right there.
I call 612-555-2422.
Yep.
I'm gonna be honest. That record wasn't even for Destiny Child.
Oh,
when I recorded that record at first, it was for 702. Chad Elliott produced it. He had worked on our second album with me, and he was like, "I got this record." Tyvee, you know, co-wrote it with me, and we ended up. I think we were in LA for an award show or something, and we went in the studio and just did it. But we had known Destiny Child for years because our second tour was their very first tour. Yeah. So I'll never forget it. We got on tour, and Matthew's always been about his business and protecting his girls. He was like, listen, it was Boys and Men's tours. Us, Casey and JoJo, Uncle Sam, Maya had been on some dates. And it's funny because Destiny Child went on before us. Because at that moment, we were, you know, they hadn't hit the stratosphere. You know what I mean? Now, I'd love to open for B, but at the time, they were going on before us. And Matthew came in and was like, yeah, these girls are underage, just so you guys know. So everybody's looking because it's like the big meet and greet before the tour starts. Yeah. Like, damn, okay. But it was about his business and protecting his girls. So, you know, it's funny because two of my favorite records that I've written for people you didn't mention, but I love those.
So let's talk about those two.
Okay, my little brother Lloyd, I wrote a record called I Could Change Your Life. And I really respect Lloyd because he wanted it to be a single. I remember he had to do something special for like AOL live series with a band he performed online, and he performed the record. And he kept saying, I want this to be a single. And they didn't make it a single, so he was like, okay, stop then. We'll start on the next album. So I've always had a special affinity for him for standing up for what he believed was a better record to come out and represent him. So I Could Change Your Life. Oak, one of my favorite producers, produced it. Man, I loved it. Besides that, I did like, what I do, 5 or 6 on A Man's Thoughts for Genuine. He has a record called Orchestra. And Oak actually did that as well. That's probably that and the record for Lloyd are my favorites. There are other ones that I really do like. You know, I've done the Duval stuff lately, but those are 2 records that I'm like, man, I wish I could have kept them for myself. I love how they came out, but I'm like, man, with Orchestra, I was able to talk about almost how I equated Rain on Forecast with sex. I equated instrumentation and music with sex, and I was able to, we put sounds in there, and it was really fun. But that's one of my favorite records that I've ever written for somebody.
Okay, so you being in the music industry, in front of the camera, behind the camera, in front of the mic, behind the mic, what ups and downs have you experienced in looking back that you would have done differently?
I probably would have been a little more selfish because I was so worried about everybody else. And what happens in this business is you can do something, and if everybody benefits, then it's great. The 1 minute you do something for yourself, you're labeled as selfish. People always go, man, you should have been bigger than you are. You could have been doing this and doing that. People don't know about half the things I wrote because we had a rule in my group, and the rule was never brag on yourself. Let one of the other group members talk about you. So if you leave that option, a lot of times, unknowingly and not purposefully, but people won't discuss the things you've done. So I never talked about the records I wrote. I used to be jealous of like Neo, and Neo's my guy. I think he's uber talented. But I felt like I was Neo before Neo because I was writing all these records. I had a sound that everybody was trying to duplicate, but I never was able to let people know. So now it's like, it bothers me, I can't even lie, that people will be online, compliment me and be like, you know, legend, because I put work in. And,
of course you did, yep.
And a young lady who runs a magazine was like, legend? He ain't no legend. Or, you know, somebody said that our first album was a classic. And she was like, it wasn't a classic. And I'm just like, man, I know that our community doesn't put my group and our body of work on the same tier as our counterparts, as our contemporaries. I know that. But I can say, and this isn't even a brag, because 112 was my favorite group, and I love Jagged Edge, especially that first album. Wingo and Q, you know, they're my brothers. But if you turn on the radio anywhere in the world and wait for one of our songs to come on, I'll bet you a lot of money that you'll probably hear ours.
Of course.
It could be Too Close. It could be Wifey. And that's nothing, because listen, them guys had heat. They had more projects than us. But we had a great impact, and I think that sometimes people try to minimize the impact that we had on music. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like right now I know they're about to have the verses of Teddy and Babyface. And truthfully, Babyface probably has more Grammys and more slow record hits, but Teddy has tempo. And Teddy's changed music twice. He has a whole genre named after him. So it's like, I don't even feel like it's fair. I think it should have been Jimmy and Terry, who also got some jams that people don't even realize. But it should have been Jimmy and Terry against LA and Babyface, because it's not fair. Teddy, I want him to play his first record last. Do you know the first record Teddy ever produced?
Nah, what was it?
He was 15 years old and he produced The Show. People don't even know that. So when he goes in his bag and he plays The Show, when he gives you all that tempo, to Rex in Effect and Just Got Paid, all these records like that, I just think that when you're online and it's a battle, the tempo it's hard to deal, because all of a sudden the slow songs start to run into each other. They all start to sound alike, which isn't fair to Babyface because he has so many dope records. So I'm just wondering how that's going to go. But even with us, I think people forget that we didn't have help, which I hated. I always was like, man, 112 was the flyest group. Them and Jagged, they got to wear the letters. Man, they had us in the French Connection looking crazy with the skinny slacks on at first. Go look at the early pictures. I got the little button up with the shirt open, showing my little bird chest. It was black, right? So we was jealous of that. And then we didn't get the features. We didn't have Jermaine and Puff and Biggie and Mace. And I was so jealous of those guys. But now, when we perform, for us, our advantage is we can give you exactly what you remember. And again, let me say this. 112 and Jagged are my favorites. And this is no way trying to compare. I'm just saying a lot of times when people talk about us, they don't put us in where I feel like we should be within the culture. So I got to stand up for mine.
Oh, no. I feel you 100%. And that's one reason I started this segment, simply because this generation, they're unaware of the individuals that paved the way for all these new artists. And so
I agree, because my fear is for a lot of these new cats, because somebody interviewed me yesterday and they asked me about the Jacquees situation. And my biggest fear for a lot of artists is what now that you're performing, will you be able to perform in 10 or 20 years? I'm literally
Thank you.
living a blessed
Yep.
life off of things I did in 97. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I fear for them. So I do think that, like we did, we went back to the Gerald Leverts and different, artists like that to get advice and toured with them a lot and learned. They got in our ass. They told us about ourselves.
Yeah.
OGs would give you a call like, what was you doing? Like literally, I got naked on stage at the Roseland Theater in New York. Jay-Z was there. I got calls from OGs like, yo, what you doing? I just felt like doing it. Like I'm 20, 21. I'm like, you know what? Hey, let's go. And I got ass naked on stage. And luckily it was the time before camera phones really was popping like that. But yeah.
Wow. So now you're a family guy. So when everyone quarantined, you know what? I appreciate how you and Lena did the whole drive-through with the whole Chick-fil-A type of thing. A family guy. So how's family life?
I mean, to be honest, it's a struggle because you're used to getting a break. We all are, whether you go to work, whether you go on tour. Luckily, financially, we're blessed. You know what I'm saying? Lena's an executive. She gets to work from home. But I have to remember the same things I used to tell her. There are times she would be home, and just because I work from home doesn't mean I'm not working. So I have to get out of the habit of going, can you do this? Or I need this. She's literally on conference calls, Zoom meetings, and, she works for a major airline, so I have to catch myself. Or Rory's super loud because she can't be around friends, and she's using her energy at school and doing these different things where I have to grab her or come up from the studio and watch her I can't say watch her because you're not watching your own child, but I have to come up and look after her. And it's taught me a lot, and I appreciate more of the responsibilities that Lena does take. Now, they get on my nerves. I'm in the house with two women, you know what I'm saying? But I get to work, and, I'm a homebody. The only difference that I've done is now I used to leave and go to the gym. For my birthday a couple weeks ago, I bought a new digital gym for my house, some state-of-the-art type jets and stuff. So I still get up at 4:30. I go in there and ride the Peloton bike, and then I hit the gym. So that's the thing that keeps me going. But it does, I get to make the little UPS runs or go to the gas station and get my scratch off, or maybe go to Walgreens or something just to get out of the house and drive for a few minutes. But it's different.
Okay. So before we wrap up, so tell us about your single, You Are.
Well, You Are, it was supposed to have an activation last year for Mother's Day. And I really was so proud of it. I've really been hesitant to release new music. You've heard music that has never come out. And everybody's asking, why won't this drop? And I'll tell you why. And I've never told anybody this. I know that growing up, I would see when artists would come back out and it didn't look aesthetically on the same as it did on the level they were before when they had a machine behind them. So it almost looks like they fell off. Even if they didn't, the appearance to the public is, why this video look like? What they shoot this on an iPhone 4S? It's like, I'm my biggest hater because I know that right now we live in a society where it's not about grace. You make one mistake, they'll put it in your name. You know, RL the one that blah, 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 blah. It becomes part of your name now. That's your new nickname. So that's what happens. So at first I really wasn't going to put out anything. But the record was really for my daughter. And I wanted other women to hear it because, I got the Man is Sexy records and things like that. Yeah, I want the panties. I do. But I also want you to know how amazing and important you are. So we did the record. We shot the video. The problem was the video wasn't done in time. So it was the director's fault. So we couldn't do the activations to release it like we needed to. But luckily, I try to make timeless music so the song, it's still growing. So when people hear it, it's like they never heard it before and they love it. So the reaction that I'm getting, even though it didn't get the push that I wanted, and I spent my own money doing it, I'm still proud of it and happy about it. So I think that it's one of those records, it could be 5 years from now, all of a sudden it just blows up. It could take a jewelry company or, some type of situation to happen where it gets promoted and people get to hear it, because if you hear it, I stand behind it and I feel like people will really love it.
Okay. So I saw a few videos of her singing with you. So if she wants to pursue a career in the music industry, will you support it? How would you go about that route?
Well, I'm that dad, you know, because I got a son and he's 24.
Mm-hmm.
But
He
with my
plays football,
daughter,
right?
huh?
Plays football, right?
He plays soccer.
Soccer,
Yeah.
yeah.
So with my daughter, I'm like any dad. I want her to be a lawyer, doctor, singer, actress. I want her to do it all. Lena has tried to get me to get in the studio to play around, and I'm like, no. Because the moment she comes in there, I want her to love it so much that even when it gets hard, she doesn't want to give up. Because I know if you push somebody, even if they like it and you see her naturally doing things, because she'll literally be making up songs on her own at 3, which is amazing to me because I never did that. She knows she be on key. I'm going to start with piano lessons and see if she, you know, really likes that. It gives me goosebumps sometimes. It's really surprising because like the video where I'm playing the video of us on the computer, and she looks at the computer and goes, "That's me," and starts singing the record. There'll be times she just lay in the bed and be like, you are," and I'm like, huh? So that's my new A&R. I'm proud of it, but it's scary at the same time because the industry used to be fun. It used to be if you were a fan of somebody, all you wanted to do was talk positive. Now we're in a place of no grace where you're looking for something negative to say. And it's hard. I be wanting to get IP addresses and come to people's houses, and I want to protect my daughter from that. Lastly, I'll say when she was born, somebody put up a post because she's fair-skinned saying that she wasn't my baby, it was a milkman's baby. Yeah. And you remember that?
Yeah,
so
I remember that was crucial.
I want to protect her as much as I can. I want to shield her. And if I let her out in this business, I'm not going to be the father, Drew. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be Matthew. But I'm scared. I want her to do what she loves, though. So it's like a way to balance it. So I have to figure it out.
Okay. So what future projects do you have coming up?
Well, me and my partner, B Flat, who's like a genius, you know what I'm saying? I try to attach myself to people that I feel are incredible. And he's incredible. We've been working on Lil Duval. We did Pull Up with him and Ty Dolla $ign. We wrote and produced that. We did the record, the Christmas record that Duval did with Monica. And we have a new record with Duval and I can't remember the rapper's name. Well, I know one of them is Devin the Dude on the record. And we have another record with him and 7th Streeter. So I've been working on that, and it's been fun because I know what it's like to have naysayers and people that want to put you in a box. And the box that Duval was in was, oh, he's just a comedian, or he makes funny songs, or cool, he chants. No, he's a super talented dude. So we have that. We have my album, which is The Procession. We have B Flat's single out right now, and his album is coming. So we're just working. I'm working. Oh, in Thailand, I have a young kid in Thailand. He's like my nephew. And we just did the record, If It Isn't Love, and it's featuring. What's funny is I was able to write a rap for one of my childhood heroes, which is Ronnie DeVoe. And he came by the house, blasted the mic, and he's rapping on the record. We flipped New Edition, If It Isn't Love. So Tyler's mother's favorite group was New Edition. So I was like, So he's a 16-year-old cat that's amazingly talented. For me, my dreams are to work with Shania Twain and Brandy, but I love new talent that likes to be molded or listen because it's a new challenge. That's what makes it so much fun.
Perfect. So I look forward to all your new endeavors. And before we wrap up, because you already know you and Lena are family, so if you're looking for the flyest gear, check out Lent Boutique.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much, bro, and nothing but love for you.
I want to tell you I'm proud of you. You know what I'm saying? Like, for real. When you hit me, you already know we family. You come over for gatherings in multiple cribs.
Exactly.
So I want you to know that I'm proud of your growth. And when you on national TV doing your thing, don't forget about me. I want to be one of the first interviews, bro.
Bro, you're one of my first interviews, so if anything, you open up the doors for me. So it's nothing. Yeah. We family.
Appreciate it, man.
Anytime.
All right, and everybody for tuning in, thank y'all, man. And make sure y'all follow him and make sure y'all support him and y'all tell other people because that's what it's about. All right?
Yeah.
Love.
All right.
Peace.
Well, love. All right.